Good morning, boys and girls. This is going to be my quick review of Act 5, scenes 1, 2, and 3. Now, I'm going to read Act 5, scene 3, and I'm just going to kind of review scenes 1 and 2. They're not particularly significant. They do have significance in them, but for the time, since I'm trying to get through all of the act, I'm going to try to get the most relevant information, and Act 5, Scene 3 is the most relevant. So in Act 5, Scenes 1, we find Romeo on a street in Mantua. His servant Balthazar comes and sees him and tells him about Juliet's passing. Again, she's not actually dead. She took a sleeping potion, and the whole city of Verona believed that she was, in fact, dead. And so, obviously, the Montagues believed she was dead, and so Balthazar, being a Montague servant, comes and tells Romeo. So we move on and find that Romeo starts to deteriorate. He is talking about death and how he has to be able to move past this, and he cannot move past it. And so he essentially goes and says, I have to go to her. I can't be alive without her. And so he needs a poison so he can die with and be with Juliet. So he describes the scenery of an apothecary, and says that he is very poor, and that doing so, Romeo could get the poison that he needs, which is outlawed in Mantua. So you can't buy poison that kills yourself or to kill, because it's obviously it's a crime to kill people. So that's why it's outlawed. But since the apothecary is poor, Romeo is able to bribe him with money, where he says, "There is thy gold, worst poison to men's souls. Do more murders in this loathsome world," right? So he says that money is kind of worse than poison or anything that could kill somebody. Gold corrupts more than, which is significant because power and wealth, which is what gold signifies, is a very, important subject, especially in the world that Shakespeare is living in, right? He's talking about the nobility, the wealthy class. The gold doesn't mean anything. It's worse poison to the men's soul than the poison itself, right? So it does more harm than essentially death, right? Which is interesting, right? Shakespeare, when we talk about meaning and things like that, Shakespeare meaning here is quite significant, and its ability to relate to the poor people and to the wealthy aristocrats, right? So we get into scene 2 here at Friar Lawrence's cell. Friar Lawrence, enter Friar John, and he talks to Friar Lawrence. Friar John is the missionary man at Mantua, who Friar Lawrence sent the letter to Romeo for. But remember, we talked about Mercutio's plague on both your houses, right? There's this supernatural element now interwoven into this story, where there's this unfortunate mishaps, right? So when Friar Lawrence asks, "Hey, where's the letter from Romeo talking about how he's excited about what he expected to hear from him?" Well, Friar John says, "Well, I could give him the letter. The city is essentially quarantined, where the infectious pestilence did reign, sealed up the doors and would not let us forth. They wouldn't go into the city. They weren't allowed to." So that's significant, right? It's ironic, one, that we are reading Romeo and Juliet essentially quarantined, but also in here, a plague that Mercutio talked about, right? He talked about a plague that was going to befall both their houses, and he didn't mean a literal plague, but there is a literal plague, and therefore significant, suggesting that Mercutio did have his curse essentially took shape here in these misfortunate occurrences, right? And so Friar Lawrence, expecting the worst, calls for a crowbar to get into to the monastery, the monument, he calls it. It's the tomb, so that he can get to Juliet before, so that she can go to Romeo, so that there's no problems. But Friar Lawrence feels that something bad is coming. And so there we get into Act 5, Scene 3, at a churchyard, in it a tomb belonging to the Capulets. And so now we have, now I'll start to read the scenes. And so we have Paris here, and we have Romeo coming, we have Balthasar, we have his page. All of these things are going to coalesce in this scene. Kind of everything that you've heard, here it comes. So enter Paris and his page, bearing flowers and a torch. Paris, give me thy torch, boy, hence and stand aloof, yet put it out, for I would not be seen. Under yon yew trees, lay thee all along, holding thine ear close to the hollow ground, so shall no foot upon the churchyard tread. Being loose unfirm, with digging up of graves, but thou shalt hear it, whistle then to me, as signal that thou hearest something approach. Give me those flowers, do as I bid thee, go. Page aside, I am almost afraid to stand alone here in the churchyard, yet I will adventure. Right, so the page is going to stand guard. If he hears anything come, he's going to hear a whistle. Paris will hear a whistle. So the page retires. Paris, sweet flower, with flowers thy bridal bed I strew. Oh woe, thy canopy is dust and stones, which with sweet watered nightly I will do. Or wanting that, with tears distilled by moans, the obsequies, that I for thee will keep, nightly shall be to strew thy grave and weep. The page whistles. The boy gives warning. Something doth approach. What cursed foot wanders this way tonight, to cross my obsequies, and true love's right? What with a torch? Muffle me, night a while. Muffle me, night a while. So he's now hiding from these intruders, essentially. And he's, trying to give his, his regards to Juliet, and is very sad. He's, attentively obedient to her and things like that. That's what that word means. And so enter Romeo and Balthasar with a torch and a mattock. Give me that mattock and the wrenching iron. Hold, take this letter. Early in the morning, see thou deliver it to my lord and father. Give me the light upon thy life. I charge thee, whate'er thou hearest or seest, stand aloof. And do not interrupt me in my course. Why I descend into this bed of death is partly to behold my lady's face, but chiefly to take thence from her dead finger a precious ring, a ring that I must use in dear employment. Therefore hence be gone. But if thou jealous dost return to pry in what I further shall intend to do, by heaven I will tear thee joint by joint, and strew this hungry churchyard with thy limbs. The time and my intents are savage wild, more fierce and more exorbitant that far than empty tigers or the roaring sea. Balthasar, I will be gone, sir, and not trouble you. So Romeo just lied to Balthasar, saying that he's going into the tomb to see Juliet's face and to take a ring that he had given to her. And so, but we know he has poison. And he's telling Balthasar, if you come in here to interrupt me, I will, almost beast-like harm him, right? So it's interesting. Remember when Friar Lawrence talked about Romeo's miscomings and his crying and his lamentation on being banished, he talks about his actions being beastly, Well, right now he is acting very savagely and beastly and narrow-minded, right? He just lost the love of his life, but again, he only knew her for such a short while, and then to act so rashly here, to say that, um, to his own servant, that I will tear you limb from limb and throw your limbs across the churchyard if you were to interrupt me. He's losing sense, right? He's becoming more and more the madman that Mercutio called him, right? So Balthazar, I will be gone, sir, and not trouble you. So shalt thou show me friendship. Take thou that. Live and be prosperous, and farewell, good fellow. Balthazar sighed. For all this same, I will hide hereabout. His look I fear, and his intents I doubt. Right? So Balthazar doesn't believe him. He says that he's afraid of Romeo. Romeo, thou detestable maw, thou womb of death, gorged with the dearest morsel of the earth, thus I enforce thy rotten jaws to open, and in despite I'll cram thee with more food. Right? So he's calling this tomb, the mouth of this tomb, right? The opening here. He's calling it death. He's right. This sepulcher is what they call them. Is a representation of death. And so he's saying that this death has swallowed the one good, dearest morsel, right? That being Juliet, the one last good thing on this earth. He's referring to himself and to Juliet as just food. It's kind of like dehumanizing himself in a way, and essentially dehumanizing or making death seem more powerful than. But he's about to choose death as opposed to having death take him. He's willingly going into the net of death, right? He's going to die. So he opens the tomb. Paris, is that banished haughty Montague that murdered my love's cousin? With which grief it is supposed the fair creature died. And here it come to do some villainous shame to the dead bodies. I will apprehend him. Right? So Paris believes that Juliet died of a broken heart over her cousin's death. But we know that's not the case. She's very much alive, but Paris believes it. And so he thinks that Romeo's coming here to do some illegal, shameful thing to the bodies, whatever that is. And so Paris comes forward. Stop thy unhallowed toil, villain Montague. Can vengeance be pursued further than death? Commend, villain, I do apprehend thee. Obey and go with me, for thou must die. Romeo, I must indeed, and therefore came I hither, right? He says, he agrees. I must die. And that's why I'm here. Good, gentle youth, attempt not, right? He doesn't recognize who it is. Attempt not a desperate man. Fly hence and leave me. Think upon these gone. Let them affright thee. I beseech thee, youth, but not another sin put not another sin upon my head, by urging me to fury. Oh, be gone! By heaven, I love thee better than myself, for I come hither armed against myself. Stay not, be gone, live, and hereafter say, a madman's mercy bade thee run away. Oh, he just accepted the role of the madman. He is crazy. He's lost so much, and he's telling him, right? Go, run. I don't want another death on my hand. I don't want another sin. I don't want to murder. I'm done. I want to be free. I want to die. This is what he's saying to Paris here. Obviously, he doesn't recognize Paris because he's calling him a good, gentle youth. He doesn't see his face in the dark of night. Paris, I do defy thy conjurations and apprehend thee for a felon here. Romeo, wilt thou provoke me? Then have at thee, boy. They fight. Page, oh Lord, they fight. I will go call the watch. Exits Page. Paris, oh, I am slain. He falls. If thou be merciful, open the tomb, lay me with Juliet. Dies. So Paris dies at the hand of Romeo. So Tybalt, Paris, all dead. by Romeo's hands. Interesting. And now Romeo goes to take his life. And so in faith, I will. Let me peruse this face. Mercutio's kinsman, noble county Paris, what said my man when my bestowed soul did not attend him as we rode? I think he told me Paris should have married Juliet. Said he not so? Or did I dream it so? Or am I mad, hearing him talk of Juliet, to think it was so? Oh, give me thy hand, one right with me in sour misfortune's book. I'll bury thee in triumphant grave. A grave, oh no, a lantern slaughtered youth. For here lies Juliet, and her beauty makes this vault a feasting presence full of light. Death, lie thou there by a dead man interred. Right? He laying Paris in the tomb. He's saying that he didn't recall. He didn't recognize Paris off the when he first started fighting him, and he's related to Mercutio, and so he's kind of upset that he did this, and knows that they both had the same feeling, right? So we're both in misfortune's book, right? And so again, misfortune, mishap, misshape, all of these misfortunate things, or these unfortunate things that are coming about, it's almost like they're cursed, right? Almost like they're cursed, right? How often, when men are at the point of death, have they been married, which their keepers call a lightning before death? Oh, how may I call this a lightning? Oh, my love, oh, my wife, death that hath sucked the honey of thy breath hath had no power yet upon thy beauty. Thou art not conquered. Beauty in sign yet is crimson in thy lips, and in thy cheeks, and death's pale flag is not advanced there. Tybalt, liest thou there in bloody sheet? Oh, what more favor can I do to thee, than with that hand that cut thy youth in twine, to sunder this that was thine enemy? Forgive me, cousin. Ah, dear Juliet, why art thou yet so fair? Shall I believe that unsubstantial death is amorous, and that the lean, abhorred monster keeps thee here in dark to be his paramour? For fear of that, I still will stay with thee, and never from this palace of dim night depart again. Here will I remain, with worms that are my chambermaids. Oh, here will I set up my everlasting rest, and shake the yoke of inauspicious stars from this world-wearied flesh. Eyes, look your last. Arms, take your last embrace. And lips, oh, you the doors of breath seal with a righteous kiss, a dateless bargain to engrossing death. Come, bitter conduct, come, unsavory guide. Thou desperate pilot, now at once run on the dashing rocks, thy seasick weary bark. Here's to my love, drinks. Oh, true apothecary, thy drugs are quick. Thus, with a kiss I die. Dies. So Romeo here is talking about a lot about death. And he's talking about how before people die, they get a spark of joy that comes across, right? It's kind of like that wave of my whole life flashed before my eyes. And sometimes you get that joyous spark, right? But he wishes that he could recall that, right? How may I call this lightning, right? He doesn't have that same feeling about dying. He doesn't get that. He doesn't think about his life and think of all the happy times. He only thinks of my love, my wife. He thinks of Juliet, and that's it. He is totally and 100% consumed by this love that he's lost all reason. He's lost all sanity. And so, he's talking about the body, he's of Juliet. He's like, man, it's like death hasn't even conquered you yet. It's like he's putting it together, but he can't get there because he's so struck with the fact that by word of mouth, he heard that she was dead. That's it. Um, right? And so he's not afraid of death in regards. He's saying like that this is this monster I shall lay with thee for the rest of eternity and never be taken away from you. With the worms as my chambermaid. He's not afraid of dying, right? Which is what death is supposed to do. It's supposed to scare us and therefore stop us from taking your own life or things like that. But Romeo has lost all reason here, and so he dies. Enter at the other end of the churchyard Friar Lawrence with a lantern, crow, and spade. Saint Francis be my speed. How oft tonight have my old feet stumbled at graves? Who's there? Right? Have my old feet stumbled at graves? Had he been faster, he would have been able to catch Romeo. He just arrived moments before Romeo drank the poison. But unfortunately, he's been stumbling. He's had mishaps. He's had misfortune. Notice how many times there's this air of just unluckiness, like just right before Romeo takes the poison, Friar Lawrence appears. Almost seconds after, right? This is that curse, that plague upon both your houses. There's this great power that cannot be sustained, that they have no control over, that is guiding their actions here. So here's one, a friend, and one that knows you well, Friar Lawrence. Blessed be upon you. Tell me, good my friend, what torch is yon that vainly lends his light to grubs and eyeless skulls, as I discern it burneth in the Capel's monument, right? He's saying, why is there a torch where there should only be darkness, right? There's nobody in there, right? So, but he says, it doth so, holy sir. There's my master, one that you love. Who is it? Romeo. How long hath he been here? Full half an hour. Go with me to the vault. I dare not, sir. My master knows not, but I am gone hence, and fearful did menace me with death, if I did stay to look on his intents. Friar Lawrence. Stay then, I'll go alone. Fear comes upon me. Oh, much I fear some ill, unlucky thing. Right? Again, talking about just a misfortunate occurrence. As I did sleep under this yew tree here, I dreamt my master and another fought, and that my master slew him. Romeo advances. Alack, alack, what blood is this which stains the stony entrance of the sepulchre? What mean these masterless and gory swords to lie discolored by this place of peace? Enters the tomb. Romeo! Oh, pale! Who else? What, Paris too? And steeped in blood. Ah, what unkind hour is guilty of this lamentable chance? Chance. Again, something unfortunate. The lady stirs. Juliet wakes. Juliet. Oh, comfortable friar, where is my lord? First thing out of her mouth, first thing. Where is Romeo? Right? Not, where am I? What's going on? But where is Romeo? Right? I do remember well where I should be, and there I am. Where is my Romeo? Right? So she remembers where she's supposed to be, but she doesn't know where Romeo's at. Noise within. I hear some noise. Lady, come from that nest of death, contagion and unnatural sleep. A greater power than we can contradict hath thwarted our attempts. That is so significant, right? He admits it. There's a power that he cannot contend with, that is dismantling all of their plans, and all of their efforts have been in vain. What is that greater power? It's that lady of chance, lady of luck. The misfortune was cursed. Their fortune was cursed by somebody that said, hey, curse a plague on both your houses, right? There is after that moment, everything else has been downhill, right? Thy husband in thy bosom here lies dead, and Paris too. Come, I'll dispose of thee among a sisterhood of holy nuns. Stay not to question, for the watch is coming. Come, go, good Juliet. Noise again. I dare not stay. I dare no longer stay. Juliet. Go, get thee hence, for I will not away. Exit Friar Lawrence. What's here? A cup closed in my true love's hand? Poison I see hath been his timeless end. O cur, drunk all and left no friendly drop to help me after. I will kiss thy lips. Happily some poison yet doth hang on them to make die with a restorative. Right? She's saying, hopefully there's poison on your lips so that I can die with you as well. Die for real now, right? Restorative, to bring back, right? To bring me back to death, right? She kisses him. Thy lips are warm. Again, signifying that it was so close. Had he just waited tenths of a second, if he waited any bit, he would have heard Friar Lawrence coming. He would have waited and they would have been together. But it is by minutes or seconds even that they have this problem. First watch. Within. Lead, boy, which way? Juliet. A noise? Then I'll be brief. Oh, happy dagger, snatching Romeo's dagger. This is thy sheath, and stabs herself. There, rust, and let me die. Falls on Romeo's body and dies. Enter watchman with the page of Paris. This is the place, there where the torch doth burn. First watch. The ground is bloody. Search about the churchyard. Go, some of you, whoe'er you find, attach. Pitiful sight here lies the county slain, and Juliet bleeding warm and newly dead. Who where hath lain these 2 days buried? Go, tell the prince, run to the Capulets, raise up the Montagues. Some others search, we see the ground whereon these woes do lie, but the true ground of all these piteous woes we cannot without circumstance descry. Right? He's saying, this watchman is saying, what happened? We have no idea what's happened here. And we can't ascertain what happened unless we hear about the stories, right? We cannot, but the true ground of all these piteous woes, we cannot without circumstance descry. We can't figure out without knowing the real reason. We don't know the real reason of why they're all dead, why all of this has happened. Re-enter some of the watch with Balthazar. Here's Romeo's man. We found him in the churchyard. First watch. Hold him in safety till the prince come hither. Re-enter other the watch with Friar Lawrence. Here's a friar that trembles, sighs, and weeps. We took his mattock and his spade from him as he was coming from this churchyard side, right? Friar Lawrence, who is devastated that his plan just backfired so erroneously. It's so just, he's like, I tried to make the best, he tried to do the best he could to get these two to not essentially kill themselves, right? The nurse and Friar Lawrence both aware that Romeo and Juliet were both so heart-stricken with the fact that Romeo was banished, they tried to come up with a feasible plan to save everybody, but it ends up going completely awry. The first watch. A great suspicion stay the friar too. Enter the prince and attendants. What misadventure, again, misadventure, mishaps, right, is so early up that calls our person from our morning's rest? Enter Capulet, Lady Capulet, and others. What should it be that they so shriek abroad? The people in the street cry Romeo, some Juliet, and some Paris, and all run with open outcry toward our monument. Prince, what fear is this which startles in our ears? First watch. Sovereign, here lies the county Paris slain, and Romeo dead, Juliet dead before, warm and new killed. Right? He's saying she was dead, 2 days dead, she should be cold, but her body's warm. Prince, search, seek, and know how this foul murder comes. Here's a friar, and slaughtered Romeo's man. First watch. With instruments upon them, fit to open these dead man's tombs. Capulet, oh heavens, oh wife, look how our daughter bleeds. This dagger hath mistaken. For lo, this house is empty of the back of Montague, and it is missheathed in my daughter's bosom. Right? To sheath a weapon is to put it away, but they're saying that putting it in somebody's body is sheathing it, so it's missheathed, it's misplaced. So, lady, oh me, this sight of death is as a bell that warns my old age to a sepulchre. Enter Montague and others. Come, Montague, for thou art early up. to see thy son and heir more early down, right? Early down. So it's a kind of a juxtaposition, early up and early down. So Montague's up early, right? It's early in the morning, but early down. What does that mean? Well, it means that he's dead sooner than he should have been, right? Earlier down, right? That is the crux of what that means, and that's right. Montague, alas, my liege, my wife is dead tonight. Grief of my son's exile hath stopped her breath. What further woe conspires against mine age, right? So, Lady Montague killed herself when Romeo was exiled. Prince, look, and thou shalt see. Montague, oh, thou untaught, what manners is in this, to press before thy father to a grave, right? To press before thy father, right? To go to death before your father. Prince, seal up the mouth of outrage for a while, till we can clear these ambiguities and know their spring, their head, their true descent. And then will I be general of your woes and lead you even to death. Meantime, forbear, and let mischance be slave to patience. Bring forth the parties of suspicion. Mischance, slave to patience. Had Romeo been patient, he would have seen, he would notice, he wouldn't have been so eager to kill himself for Juliet. Had Juliet just waited a little bit, she would have lived. Had Friar Lawrence been faster, he would have, right? All of these things coalescing in this one moment of just complete misfortune. Friar Lawrence, I'm the greatest, able to do least, right? Able to do least, yet most suspected, as the time and place doth make against me of this dire murder. And here I stand, both to impeach and purge myself condemned and myself excused. Prince, then say at once what thou dost know in this. I will be brief, for my short date of breath is not so long as is a tedious tale. Romeo, there dead, was husband to that Juliet, and she, there dead, that Romeo's faithful wife. I married them, and their stolen marriage day was Tybalt's doomsday, whose untimely death banished the new-made bridegroom from the city, for whom and not for Tybalt Juliet pined, right? He's saying that he's the exposition, right? This is the exposition. They're telling everybody what, Friar Lawrence is telling everybody what's happened now, which is significant because nobody has known anything. And had they known, you'll see what the outcome would have been. You, to remove that siege of grief from her, betrothed and would have married her perforce to county Paris, then comes she to me, and with wild looks bid me devise some mean to rid her from this second marriage. Or in my cell there would she kill herself. Then gave I her, so tutored by my art, a sleeping potion, which so took effect as I intended, for it wrought on her the form of death. Right? So I'm going to pause there real quick. He's saying to them, had I not done what I did, Juliet would have killed herself then and there in my chamber. For it wrought on her the form of death. Meantime, I write to Romeo that he should hither come as this dire night to help to take her from here borrowed grave, right? Borrowed grave, meaning that it wasn't her real grave. It was a fake grave. She borrowed it, right? She borrowed, okay. Being the time the potion's force should cease, but he which bore my letter, Friar John, was stayed by accident, and yesternight returned my letter back. Then all alone at the prefixed hour of her waking came I to take her from her kindred's vault, meaning to keep her closely at my cell till I conveniently could send to Romeo. But when I came, some minute ere the time of her waking, here untimely lay the noble Paris and true Romeo dead. She wakes, and I entreated her come forth, and bear this work of heaven with patience. But then a noise did scare me from the tomb, and she, too desperate, would not go with me, but as it seems, did violence on herself. All this I know, and to the marriage her nurse is privy, and I ought in this miscarried by my fault. Let my old life be sacrificed some hour before this his time, until the rigor of severest law. Right? So he's offering himself over to the authorities and saying, put me to death. I deserve death for all of this tragedy that's befallen. Prince, we still have known thee for a holy man. Where's Romeo's man? What can he say in this? Balthasar, I brought my master's news of Juliet's death, and then in post he came from Mantua, to this same place, to this same monument. This letter he early bid me give his father, and threatened me with death going in the vault. I departed not, and left him there. Give me the letter, I will look on it. Where is the county's page that raised the watch? Sire, what made your master in this place? Page, I came with flowers to strew his lady. He came with flowers to strew his lady's grave, and bid me stand aloof, and so I did. Anon comes one with a light to ope the tomb, and by my master drew on him, and then I ran away to call the watch. This letter doth make good the friar's words, their course of love, the tidings of her death. And here he writes that he did buy a poison of a poor apothecary, and therewithal came to his vault to die, came to this vault to die, and lie with Juliet. Where be these enemies? Capulet, Montague, see what a scourge is laid upon your hate, that heaven finds means to kill your joys with love. And I, for winking at your discords too, have lost a brace of kinsmen. All are punished. So now the truth comes out. And the prince and the Capulets, they blame themselves. Because in reality, had the prince not banished Romeo, had the prince not threatened death to anybody that fought, not killed, but fought in the streets, Romeo wouldn't have had to be banished, wouldn't have to have left. But also Capulet and Montague's hatred towards each other, right? But what has the heavens done to them? Their children died because they loved too much. While their enemies, right, Capulet and Montague, hated each other so fiercely, their heirs, Romeo and Juliet, loved too fiercely, right? So we get this kind of circular motion, circular imagery here, and this juxtaposition of this older kind of nobility, right? The Montagues and Capulets had such contempt for each other, such hatred towards each other. But what is the juxtaposition? What is the irony? The irony is that love killed Romeo and Juliet, not hate. Love did. And so this irony is what shapes that or represents that they needed to do away with their hatred, right? And the prince too, who hated the fact that these two hated each other, lost Mercutio and Paris, both of his kinsmen. And Capulet and Montague lost Tybalt, lost Juliet and Romeo. So much death and so much needless fighting, right? Capulet, oh brother Montague, give me thy hand. This is my daughter's jointure. For no more can I demand, right? But I can give thee more. For I will raise her statue in pure gold, that while Verona by that name is known, there shall no figure at such rate be set as that of true and faithful Juliet. As rich shall Romeo's by his ladies lie, for sacrifices of our enmity, right? Because of their hatred, Romeo and Juliet are the sacrifices that now, with their death, have made a bonjour, a jointure, as he said, a resolution to their hatred. And so what does Montague say? I'm gonna make a statue for Juliet. What does Capulet say? I'll make Romeo's statue to be with his lady, right? So Prince, a glooming peace this morning with it brings. The sun for sorrow will not show his head. Go hence to have more talk of these sad tidings. Some shall be pardoned and some punished, for never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. So there ends Romeo and Juliet. Yep, that's the end of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed Romeo and Juliet as much as I did. I liked analyzing it for you guys. So remember, we got a test tomorrow and all that stuff. So please, if you have any questions, leave a comment. If not, I'll see you next time.